Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. Today is a topic which will be of interest to people who are especially doing business, who are entrepreneurs. An interesting thing happened in our building this day, so I thought we'd use this opportunity to talk about this concept of economics with Sashwath. It's called the supply and demand. What had happened was we had a huge beehive in one of the trees in our next to our apartment building. So a bunch of guys noticed it. These bee hunters, hive hunters, these guys came up and they said, "Sir, we can bring down the hive for you for free of cost, as long as we get to sell whatever honey we can extract from the hive." My brother said, "Sure, go ahead, take the hive, because it gets rid of a nuisance near our building." So these guys climbed up, they got up and they came down, and they did not expect the amount of honey to be generated out of this hive, because the hive turned out to be very large. So they were outside and they were very gleeful and they were very happy. They saw enormous quantities, kilos of honey coming out of the hive. And they said, "Okay, we're going to be selling this at least 500, 600 rupees a kilo, and we're in for a nice treat." 5, 6 guys who had come, they were very happy. But unfortunately for them, the amount of supply they had was far larger than the demand which was there in the market, which is our flat. Poor guys went knocking door to door, offering kilos of honey at 500, 400, even 300 rupees. There are not many takers, because unfortunately in our flat and our surrounding areas, there's not much consumption of honey. Though the supply was very good and the product was very good, unfortunately there was no demand for it. So I thought we can talk about the supply and demand concept, why it's very important if you're an entrepreneur or a businessman, why you should keep this in mind. What is this supply demand concept, Joshua?
So there's something called the law of demand, which is the most basic law in economics, and you learn it in class 11, 12, and then you end up continuing building upon the same law of demand in college. So what is this law of demand? It's very intuitive, it's very basic, it's something which even a 5-year-old, once you explain it to the 5-year-old, would say, "Yeah, I knew this." So this is the concept. The demand or the need for a good goes down as you keep giving more supply. So in the sense that, let's say your price for a good decreases as you keep giving more supply. So if there are 10 chocolates available in the market, and that would mean that there's a certain price of, let's say, 10 rupees per chocolate. But if the amount of chocolates in the market go up to 20 chocolates, the price of the chocolates now come from 10 to 5 to maybe 3 or 2, depending on how much you increase the amount of chocolates available. So this depends on it, because it depends on how much the people over there want to consume it and how much they value their consumption. And there's also competition involved with supply, where the more the price of a good is, there's more supply. But here we're focusing more on demand. So let's look at demand more. So another thing with demand is that it doesn't really change much just because of how much you supply. It's more to do with the price of the good. And if the price of the good is right, then it's certainly something which we'll be willing to consume. Think of it like this. If a certain good is worth way more than what you'd pay for it, you wouldn't consume it even if there were a billion of them in the market. But if a certain good is worth much less than what you think it's worth, then you'll definitely consume it even if that was the only one and no one else wants to buy it. So that's the way demand works. And I'll pass it back to my uncle on that.
Yeah, and it's important to realize the supply and demand as a business person. It's important that you maintain that equilibrium. If you're manufacturing a product or you're selling a product as a reseller, it is always best if the price is moving up very slowly and gradually upward. You don't want a huge spike in the price, nor do you want a huge collapse in the price. Because when you see the market dynamics and of your own business setup, your overheads and the way you're calculating and running a business, it's a fine equilibrium, it's a fine balance. It's like the weather. You want the weather to be nice. You want the monsoons to be predictable. You don't want severe cyclones and severe rain, nor do you want severe droughts. If that happens as a farmer, you cannot farm. You'll be like, why are they complaining about, it's raining now? There's lots of rain. Just because there's lots of rain, you can't hold the rain in the ground and hold it. The ground doesn't absorb the water like that. Nor if it's, severe drought, you can't say like what everyone complaining about. It doesn't work like that. You need a good, slow growth, slow equilibrium being maintained so it's predictable. That is why it's important to keep your supply and your demand in perspective. And as Sashwath said, demand is a purely psychological thing. While supply can be controlled, it can be physically controlled by you. Demand is something it's out of your hands. Like the weather, you cannot predict it. You can only till the soil, you can plant the seeds, then you have to pray for rain. As a manufacturer or as a business person, you can set the offices up, you can set up your supply chain, you can do all your research, but at the end of the day, you have to pray to God that the consumer thinks your product is worth it and there's something they want to buy. And it can turn very quickly on its head, the supply and demand. So it's an equilibrium we should always keep an eye on, and we should be careful. And you should never get greedy, thinking, okay, there's a sudden demand, spike in demand, let me do some price gouging or something. It can prove very fatal if you're a business person.
And something which is to relate with our honey story is that let's look at the honey of vehicles and your factories, which is oil. So if you look at cartels, and the biggest cartel operating is the OPEC, which produces this petroleum product, crude oil, and it exports it. So what the OPEC does is that it reduces the supply artificially. It says this year we will only produce so much, because that's the way they control the price. And if they think that the price of crude oil has gone down too much, they'll cut the supply back a little more. Or if they think that the price of crude oil is way too much and the demand has fallen down enormously, they'll increase the supply a little bit, and they always make an announcement into the market so that the market doesn't have to wait for this to hit for the barrels of crude to hit the markets, but rather they react on the information itself. So the price immediately goes back to where they want, and the quantity demanded goes back to where they want. So it's a very smart strategy where you regulate supply. So what the honey people could have done, is the hive hunters could have done, is they could have limited their supply and sold just the right amount, and taken, because honey, as he said, is as we were discussing before this, he said that it was not perishable. So it's something they could have bottled up and just taken elsewhere and not have to flood the local market with it, because clearly the demand was muted.
Very true. So as Sashwath said, if they had preempted this and had bought material with them so that they can store this honey and take it away to them and take it to a place where they could meet the demand, with this supply, they would have been in a far better shape. Unfortunately for them, they did not have this kind of planning. They were stuck on the roadside, sitting till quite late in the afternoon, trying to get rid of the honey, where the honey, from being a blessing in the morning, turned out to be a curse by afternoon, because they didn't know how to get rid of it. They definitely cannot go pour it down the drain somewhere. That their mindset will not allow them to throw it away.
Yeah.
So they needed somehow to generate the cash. So they're literally saying, please take it from us.
Yeah.
Take it, it's good for you, it's good for your family. They tried everything. And it's very hard. When there's no demand, to create demand for a product can be very, very hard.
Very difficult. And this pricing strategy is known as elasticity, price elasticity of demand. So if your price is too less, then you might be able to increase the price, and yes, the quantity demanded will reduce because your price is increased, but the percentage increase in your price will be more than the percentage decrease in the quantity demanded. So your revenue goes up, and this is one case. And the other case is when your price is too high, then you can reduce the price a little bit. So yes, your price goes down a certain percentage, but the quantity bought increases by a much higher percentage, so your revenue goes up. So what you can do in pricing goods at your own business, or when you're analyzing companies which have pricing power, what you can try to figure out with their pricing strategies. Let's say ITC tries to increase the price of cigarettes by 10%. What you can sit and try to figure out is, okay, last year they sold these many quantities of cigarette boxes. This year they only sold so much. What is the difference? Has their revenue changed? Have their profit margins remained the same? Costs have remained the same? Then what are they doing with their pricing strategy? Because there's always an explanation when a company reduces or increases its price. So that's always something to look out for. And this is not just purely an economics concept. You can incorporate this in your own business by restricting your supply according to the demand. And this is a quick and easy way for you to be able to increase your revenue depending on pricing strategies. And this is what people hire firms like Goldman & Sachs and other Boston Consulting Group and all these other business companies. There are people like me who are trained in economics to come in and tell them this very simple secret of running a business and having better pricing strategies.
And the big thing which you should realize if you are doing this kind of business is, if you have a lot of stock, all your working capital and the money which you can deploy to run your business is locked into stock. So if that current money is locked into that, the value is not reachable, you can't access it. and it becomes inaccessible to you. So you should always be cautious about unnecessarily stocking too much, thinking there is going to be demand. And when the demand comes, I'll be able to supply it. Because till the demand comes, you can be stuck with a whole bunch of stock, which you don't know when is going to come the demand. Markets can be very finicky that way. So you should be cautious. And if you take the same example and look at it on a level of a country level or a global level, this is the same concept of inflation.
Yes.
This kind of supply demand chasing is what creates inflation and can really spiral out of control for countries. And we've seen this globally.
And this exact pricing strategy can be enacted by one country, one individual, one company, and multiple countries working together, like the OPEC. So you have all your countries engaging in this very strategy with your tariffs and with your quotas on how much you can import, how much you can export. All of this is a way to control price. All of this is a way to protect certain people and take away money from certain people. So this is something which you can use in macroeconomics, microeconomics, in your own business, and in analyzing while investing.
Anyway, I hope you found this video informative and interesting. If you did, please do subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification icon so you'll be notified every time we come out with a new video. If there's something you think your friends and your family would like, please do share our videos with them. We'd like to thank you again for joining us today on Be Rich.
Thank you.
I'm in Tokyo on work on the 5th of August 2023. I have a lot of following in Japan, Tokyo. Those who want to meet me in Tokyo on 5th August, kindly drop me an email on the address given below or contact us on WhatsApp there. My team would get in touch with you and facilitate the meeting. Once again, I thank you for your support for Be Rich. It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.